Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Mark O'Brien of CM First. Thank you very much for attending today's webcast. Our first order of business is I've got a poll question for you, which is going to be, what has been your biggest adjustment since working from home, or WFH? So we have some options there. Either adapting apps to remote access, handling more paperwork, using video for all meetings, haven't really noticed much of anything, or I'm not working from home. Today's audience is great. We've got real well represented, from Europe, both northern and southern countries within Europe, and North America. A couple of people from Latin America as well too. And the big I guess the big winners were 42% each is either using video for all meetings or really haven't noticed much of anything. It's interesting. And then no one said they're handling more paperwork. And then a little bit of handling apps, or actually not working from home, still working at the office. So many of our IT people are in that boat where we've been working remotely for a while, so haven't noticed that much of an adjustment. But with people in other functions of the company, it's a lot different. It's a new experience for them. I want to remind our audience to please save your questions for the end of the presentations. We've got several coming up on remote hosting and several technical lightning talks, as well as talking about the upcoming conference. So please use your console to record them. And then when everyone is finished, then we'll have a Q&A session a few minutes from now. So today's agenda is going to be community and remote hosting. As I said, Mark Schroeder is giving a lightning talk on data, and then John is going to be Mark's is on security, and John's is on discovering data in our CA Plex apps. We're also going to introduce Roger Griffith, who's a longtime Plex CA customer advocate and the new president of our worldwide Plex CA user community. So, next slide. I'm going to get to there we go. So, the upcoming conference, it is going to be 2 days. It's a virtual go. It's going to be an intense 2-day remote experience. We're looking at, we'll have some more questions for you about what kinds of features and sessions that you want to see, what type of learning experience and hands-on experience that you want to have, and more about that later on in the webcast. So something else that's up, I think it's important in this day and age that you realize that we in our role and in this community, that we're supporting the small customer as well as the larger customers that have especially Plex and CA applications, IBM hardware. It's very, very important to us. We're actively working with CA Broadcom to come up with an Azure cloud instance that would help initially be small, our small Plex customers. It's not in the can yet. We can't announce success, but we are knocking on it. It's something small Plex users are treated differently elsewhere than they are in North America, and we have to fix that. So anyway, that's what we've got. That's what we've got for you in terms of on the business side. And then my last thing, just have one more slide here. So COVID, yeah, as you all know, it's affecting all of us, and we understand that it's hard for Broadcom to reach. I'm in discussions with Broadcom people every day on sales and customer satisfaction matters, and just process things, contracts and things like that. So it can be difficult, but we are here for you. And I think Roger will verify that too in the community that, you know, if you need help, our engineers will assist you. We'll figure out what's going on. We brought several systems back just in the last 30 days that were severely affected by different problems, and we can do the same. We can do the same for you. So at this point, I'd like to turn over the proceedings to our first. Actually, the second poll question, and then I'm going to go to Patrick. So poll question number 2 is about the conference. So really, basically, think of you personally. What are you interested in signing up to as an attendee? The following. So the options would be, you know, product presentations for specific to Plex and 2E, perhaps a half-hour lab day. They've been very, very well received in the past, or 2-hour hands-on labs, shorter duration, more specific on the topics. Roundtables, birds of a feather, those kinds of things have been very have worked well in the past. And then we'd like to hear if remote social networking is interesting. We'd like to hear what's going on with others. You know, one of our partners usually gets, you know, a couple of hundred customers at their conference, their annual conference in Boston. They went virtual in April. They agonized over it, and they had 4,000 people that you know, that attended at least two of the sessions on a 2-day conference. So we're optimistic based on your feedback that we can achieve similar kinds of results with us and just get a much broader representation. I do know there are a couple of customers on the call whose management will not reimburse them for going to conferences. So there's an opportunity for you to be actively engaged with the community and learn and share something as well too. So a couple more seconds, yeah, and close it out. And results. Not particularly surprised, but the bulk of you did vote. So slight majority are Plex and 2E, keeping things specific to product, and then another thing that was very popular was the 4-hour hands-on labs too. So Roger, you taking notes?
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, that's great feedback. We'll have more to say about that later on in the presentation. But right now, I want to turn the proceedings over to Patrick Schultz from Abacus. He's going to talk to us about IBMI hosting.
Hey guys, everybody. This is Patrick Schultz, Senior Account Executive at Abacus, and I'm sharing my screen. And let me know if there's any issues seeing it here. Mark, you see it? Everything good?
Looks terrific, Patrick. Yes.
Okay, great. Once again, Patrick Schultz. I'm going to take about 10 minutes ish to talk about who Abacus is and what we do and how we relate specifically to the AOS400 platform. So if you take one takeaway from this, when you hear AOS400, iSeries, or IBMI, think of Abacus. We are a platform as a service provider. We pretty much do anything and everything up to the application. We can sell you hardware. We can help you manage it on premise. We can move it to the cloud. We can do all kind of different services around this unique platform, and we're uniquely positioned to help customers. So our mission at Abacus is to run the last 10,000 IBM environments with and for our customers. And if you know this platform, there's a little bit of a joke in this, in that everybody understands that this is a shrinking platform, but by so being it diminishing, there is still a large opportunity for someone like Abacus to help support this customer base. There is a lot of customers' workloads that are very intertwined and running on these platforms that they can't get off of it, or they don't want to get off of it, or it's not economical, and that's where we come in to help support this aging platform. Once again, we're positioned ready to meet our goal. We're one of the largest and growing IBMI platform-focused providers in this space, very uniquely positioned. Before mentioned, we do anything and everything up to the application level, And you'll hear me intertwine AS400, IBM i-series. It goes by a bunch of different names. IBM continually rebranded it. Most people still call it by the traditional name AS400. We're an authorized IBM business partner. We can provide a traditional premise sale and help that whether that's new or used. We're one of the industry-leading providers of iCloud services with an IBM i brand. Our i solutions are based upon proven technologies, and we're also an authorized IBM managed services provider. So we have all of the affiliations with the OEM possible. We really look at this as a where do you want your workloads to live? Do you want them on premise? Do you want them in the cloud? Or a lot of people take a hybrid approach. Some people need to step into the cloud with the proverbial toe in the water, and they can do that with DR as a service or backup as a service, HA as a service, something of that nature. Or some people want to keep it on premise because of certain requirements, and we can actually help run the environments with them for you. We can refresh them, we can update them, and then we can help you run them so you can concentrate at the important application levels. Aforementioned, new hardware, pre-owned, backup as a service, operations management, high availability, disaster recovery, array of services. Then we can do cloud, backup, HA, DR. Basically, you can move anything and everything associated to that platform to the cloud if you desire, or you can do a hybrid of a little bit in between. Why choose Abacus? Or why do you even want to work with this continual platform? You have an aging workforce. We see that very often. Not many people are running to this platform. Most people have had it, and now they are aging out of the platform and need someone to support it. You want to shift to focus business critical workloads. In the past, there could have been 10 people running this platform for your company. Now you're 1 or 2 people, and you need to focus at the business level. You have a pending application hardware upgrade. You don't know where to start. We can help you with backup elimination windows. We can enhance your business continuity. You have a need to have us step in and do operations management. You may be shifting to an archive, and you need somewhere to put this aging environment. You may have on your existing system not enough room to do a test or dev environment. We can spin those up. Your OS is back leveled, or you need to get current. You don't know where to start. You need to have a performance assessment. We have an array of offerings of why you'd want to come to Abacus. Also, why choose us, who and what we are. We argue we do the AS400 better than the rest, and we look forward to proving that one customer at a time. We have over 30 specialists focused on just this one thing. It makes us the largest single provider of knowledge that I'm aware of. Obviously, an OEM would have more of that, but those people don't know who they all are and can talk to each other. We are one point of knowledge as it relates to this platform at the infrastructure level. We have a variety of offerings. We're fast, we're small, we're nimble. We're big enough to matter, but small enough to care, so we can really take care of our customers. We provide value and compliance, continuation. That's becoming more of a priority these days, and so we have all the compliance you need. How do we do it? Before mentioned, we have a 30-plus team of technical resources. We have a 30,000 square foot corporate headquarters that houses our warehouse, our lab, one of our data centers. We run multiple data centers. We're partnered with the QTS family of data centers for our production and DR, and then we have another one in our corporate headquarters. Support 24/7 availability, portal. You can get us by portal, email, phone, and certified. Once again, we have all the IBM certifications and compliance certifications you would be looking for. Delivery partners, this kind of gives you a snapshot of how we deliver our offerings, whether once again it's premise or cloud. We use different combinations, but ultimately we have a best of breed mentality. We've comboed all this stuff up with them for our customers, so you don't have to worry about making a lot of those decisions. The responsibility matrix, I feel this is kind of important for a customer to determine where and how they want to live. If you want to stay with traditional premise, do you want to do everything yourself and run it and manage it? These days, that's not always possible anymore with limited workforces, working from home, and a lot of different things that this unique situation, the pandemic, we've encountered. We can come in with a premise offering that we call our premise MSP, where we can take some of the responsibility off of your plate. or before mentioned, we have premise, some cloud, some is on premise, some in the cloud. We can start to see moving more of those activities to us. Or an all cloud option, we take care of all of the blocking and tackling and allow you to concentrate at the high levels. So most businesses are trying to get towards out of the day-to-day operations. And this is just kind of a snapshot of showing you we can help fill in the coloring and allow you transfer the responsibility and the SLAs to us for a lot of the activity. So once again, you can concentrate at the important business application levels. Executive summary. Let me move this over here a little bit so I can. Everybody see that screen better now? Let Abacus take care of your critical IT infrastructure and AS400 needs. Get out of the day-to-day infrastructure. Leverage the efficiencies of the cloud. Focus your IT resources and skills on the ever-changing demands for your business. Take the next step to leverage your AS400 investment. And once again, when you hear AS400 I-Series or IBMI, think of Abacus. So in the whole scope of things, I'll end it with a quick summary of where we're seeing things happening in the marketplace. But 5 years ago, we would say that 80% of our sales were premise focused. And that was really mainly behind a business mindset and also costing. But fast forward 5 years, I feel with times changed, with the economics and with the evolution of cloud being the new normal, 80% of our customers now go to the cloud in some type of function or form versus staying on premise. And probably the number one underlying driver is cost. So if you can save money and get someone to take the responsibility and arguably do a better job than you can, then that should be a consideration that many businesses should be taking into consideration, and many are. And it is an evolution. It doesn't have to happen all at once, and we can help bridge that whole process and that whole journey together. So yeah, that's the end of the slide deck. So Mark, I'll hand this back over to you, and then we can answer any questions at the end of it as well.
Terrific. Thanks, Patrick. Next up, we've got Mark Schroeder, who's going to be performing one of our two lightning talks, and talking about security and discovery monitoring for Plex and 2E applications.
All right, today we're going to talk about how Guardium can work with you on giving you monitoring of compliance data and monitoring of sensitive data. And we'll look at how this can work for you in the 2E and Plex world as well. It's it's a global issue that we have, is monitoring our data. So Guardium provides two different methods to help you monitor the data. One is called Smart Assist. And with Smart Assist, they have a 5-step wizard that you can use to set up. This is monitoring for not just sensitive data, but also for compliance of like GDPR and the new California regulations, whichever area you need to monitor for, it'll help you set up that monitoring capability with just a few steps. So step one is before you begin, it's basically preparing. You have to set up your systems a little bit. Then you select the compliance type, select the database to monitor, search for sensitive data, and then the summary. So we'll look at each of those steps here real quickly. So step one, the primary thing you need to do is you need to set up connections. They call them STAP. It's an STAP, which is basically a connection to a server. And then on that server, it will look for the databases that you have available. So it will then allow you to monitor those databases. Secondly is you select the compliance type. They have several pre-configured policies, such as GDPR, like I mentioned, PCI, SOX. So whichever type of compliance area you want to monitor for, you can select that here. Then the next thing is you select a database to monitor. In this case, I'm just selecting an SQL server. It could just as well be an IBMI server. We'll see that in the other area that we're going to work with. But then you select your database, and then you get a summary page after that. And on this summary page, it shows you what you selected. And then at the bottom here, you select Run Setup, and it gets the whole process started. So it's a really simple process that IBM has set up with Guardium so that you can start monitoring for compliance. Every one of these areas, you can do some other configuration, but today we're just looking at the basic initial steps. Next you can do is you can look for sensitive data. And this is, if you're needing to look for date of birth, social, all those kind of different things, you can run this process. So it also has a wizard. You go into the Discover Sensitive Data area, and you have a wizard of steps to follow. So the first thing we do is we have a list of different discovery scenarios, and you can copy one or you can create one from scratch. So whether you copy it or you create it from scratch, you're going to give it a name and then a description. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to define what to discover. I know this is pretty small right here, but like email addresses, or maybe you have social or different things like that. And you click on the item on the left side and move it over to the right side. And once you have selected it and it's over on the right side, you can actually get into doing a little bit more work on it. Let's see. Like your search expression, when you're searching for some data, you can put a regular expression right in here, and this regular expression then tells the system what it's looking for. You can do it for data, or down here you can look at a column name. So like if you want to eliminate a column name of DOB, you could create a regular expression for DOB. In this case, the regular expression is for date of birth, if that is included in the column name. So you have a lot of capability to determine what you're going to look for when you're creating this. And then you determine where to search. In this case, we're looking at both SQL Server and IBMI. So we can look for, if you have a Plex application running on SQL Server and a TUI application running on DB2, you can run both of them at the same time and create one search, one sensitive data search, and it'll look at both systems. And then the next step is you run the discovery. This is the first time around when you run it. And it will then find information. Here you see that there's a column name ACAHCD. That probably looks pretty familiar to a lot of us that are TUI developers, because that's what we're used to, is that kind of nomenclature. So you can see here that it found date of birth in the data. So then we would want to go and look and research that a little bit more and determine what we want to do with that. And I'll show you in a short demo how we can refine our searches so that we are having cleaner and cleaner searches as we go through. But once you have the report created and you can see this, the next step is going to be you're going to set up an audit process. You're going to define who is going to look at that report, who is going to have that responsibility, or what group of people are going to have the responsibility of looking at that data and refining it and making sure that your company is in compliance. And finally, it takes you to scheduling. So you can schedule this to repeat every whatever amount of time you want. It can be every hour, every minutes. So however works best for your company. A lot of people do it every hour, because that way, as data is entered throughout the company, it can continue to look at that sensitive data. Okay, whoops. So now I'm going to take you to a brief a demo. So let me go ahead and change my screen here. I was logged in, but now I had to log me out because I was out of it too long. So that's another security piece. Okay, so this is the first screen you'll see when you get to Guardium. And the pieces that we talked about today is set up a compliance monitor. That's over here on section 4, monitoring data access. So we set up the compliance monitoring. And then we also talked about discovering and classifying sensitive data. So for right now, I'm just going to look at this discovering sensitive data section. If you look in here, it says Smart Assist. So I have created a couple of Smart Assist searches through that option 4 earlier this week. And so it put the data part over here. You know, GDPR and then PCI and those, they look more than data. So it'll be sort of spread out as to where it's going to be working and collecting data. But in this case, it's for the sensitive data portion is listed here. Then I created a sensitive data discovery piece here. So I'm going to go ahead and go up to that section. And what you'll find here, these different green arrows, those are the different steps in the process that I just talked about in the presentation. I've already run this discovery earlier this week, so I'm just going to look at my report. Oh, if you look here, there's 7 matches that were found in my report. I have a really small database, so it doesn't find a lot of data. And so as you look down here, it's primarily finding DOB in the data. And the columns, as you can see, are the different named columns. Well, down here I have a column that's called SSN, and it has, let's see, I can't quite scroll all the way down there. But you can see it found it at DOB in data. So I'd have to look at that and see what the situation is. If I decide I want to make some changes or identify this, I can go to add to group. So there's different groups I can put into. So I can exclude tables, I can exclude schemas, I can exclude columns from tables, so that next time we do the search, it doesn't come up as a positive. I can also have advanced actions where I can create rules or I can ignore. So there's different options I have as I go through and look at the report so that I can get cleaner and cleaner results. And, you know, as a TUI or Plex system, you know, it's nice that we don't have to have our column names and our table names listed as exactly, you know, the names that people would understand more. You know, we understand them because we're used to them, but the system can also understand them and can pull out of our systems, out of our databases, the correct information. So this is a really good tool, very comprehensive. We're just looking at one minute part of what Guardium can do, but I think in all of our situations, I think it could help with providing some of that monitoring we need. So, and if you have any questions, feel free to put them out there so I answer them at the end of the meeting. So Mark, I'll turn it over to you now.
Okay, terrific. Thanks a lot, Mark.
You're welcome.
Next up is John Rhodes, who's going to be talking on moving over to the data side of the equation and looking at Plex and TUI applications. You're on, John.
All right, thank you, Mark. Okay, so I'm going to continue on the data theme that Mark Schroeder went through, but talk about discovering schema information and data lineage in your CA TUI and CA Plex applications. And traditionally, that's been a very hard task to do. Okay, and I think Mark Schroeder just touched on some of that. You know, one thing is that the column and table names, you know, are often generated, and especially on the TUI side, almost always generated. And you really can't tell from the column name or table name what exactly is in particular database. And even if they were meaningful names, you're limited by the IBMI character limitations, 10 characters or even less for field names. So almost impossible to really give a schema layout to an analyst and say, hey, this is our schema, try to make some sense of it. Really, really difficult to do. And also there's not much built into the CA2E and CA Plex products around visualization of ERDs. On the 2E side, I think there's a report. On the Plex side, you can build these ERDs within the tool. However, you have to keep those maintained kind of manually. And a lot of people find that very kind of burdensome and don't bother to do it. So it's really kind of difficult to do data lineage, certainly. So what people mostly do, I think, that right now, at least people I come in contact with, our customers, every time they have a major project, they're recreating, kind of rebuilding or reinventing the wheel. Okay, they're going into the Plex 2 model. They're looking at the data they're relevant to their project they're going to work on. They lay it out maybe in draw.io or Visio or Irwin or whatever. Kind of draw it out, spec the changes, talk about it with the analysts, and then go off and do it. And then that work is all discarded, and the next time there's a project, it has to all be done all over again. So it's kind of a hard, really burdensome way to do things. So I want to talk about doing it this like in an easier way than in the past. And with that, we've done some features in our CM Evolve IT product to make this easier for people. So this is brand new in 11.1, 11.2. 11.1 is coming out this month, and 11.2 shortly after that. I'll show you some demonstration of this, but this is what we're going to be doing. We're doing some other things as well, but I want to focus on the data side. And that is to let people incorporate a business terminology or a data dictionary or data type concept and tie that information to their columns and tables that are in Plex or 2E. So they can classify columns by business meaning. You know, this column is a social security number. This column is a date of birth, even though the name may not reflect that or may not be immediately obvious. And also finding instances of that type. So maybe finding all the cases of a particular field like SSN might be very important. It might be important from a data protection standpoint. It might be important from an impact standpoint, right? So finding all those instances. And then visualizing the diagram itself through an ER diagram. I can show you how this can be done kind of real time. So you don't have to create an ER diagram and then you know, keep it updated every month or so. It's just there instantly for anyone to look at. So some of the use cases around that we expect, or people have told us they wanted this feature, was they want to model the data impacts prior to doing a major project. Or maybe there's a external access, maybe there's a package coming in that needs to write and read from tables. It's kind of mapping those out. Trace and sensitive data across application, that's very, very important to a lot of people these days, as Mark Schroeder was kind of alluding to there. And using that as an input for monitoring tools like Guardium. And also to make the business data structures kind of visible to non-Plex 2E analysts. So you can have a business analyst that really doesn't want to learn 2E, really doesn't want to learn Plex, go in there and understand the data and be able to communicate with the Plex developer, the 2E developer. So that was what we were trying to do as a goal with this product. A couple screen prints. And you know, here's just showing the new features we have. I'll show this live in a minute. But we can see the actual dependencies on the business terms and see what's impacted, like a person address. Where's that person address used? Where's it referred to? You know, in case that could be all over the system, right? In case of an address. And also dependent on entities. So there's a concept of entities, and entities are typically tied to other entities and also the physical tables. You know, that's typically a one-to-one relation in a Plex and 2E model between your entity and your physical table. Sometimes there's no physical table, but often that's one-to-one. So we also, let's show you the impact between your entities and physical tables. And you know, lastly, visualize very quickly the information in a diagram and then export that diagram as necessary, without having to draw it by hand each and every time you want to see something. So let me go over to the demonstration. Okay, so here's our CA Evolve IT product. This product was built to analyze large complex systems on the mainframe. And over the past year, we've also adapted it to the IBM I, RPG, and COBOL, and also to specifically to CA Plex and CA2E applications. So in the case of a CA2E or CA Plex application, we're not just analyzing the source code, so we're analyzing the source code. We're also tying that to the model itself. That's really the only way that you're able to really analyze a 2E application or a Plex application is having both the generated code and the model. Without both, you have a very limited view because the generated code has things that the model may not reflect. The generator does a lot of strange things or has a lot of features that are not documented. And to really get an impact, you have to look at the generated code, but you have to marry that with the model. So we have quite a bit of functionality that you may have seen before around functions and messages and source code and all that. So I'm not going to talk about that today, but I want to show the new stuff we have, which is around business term and around entity. Okay, so what we have now is we've added this feature of business term that you can, for example, create your data dictionary or import your data dictionary of business terms into here. Okay, and then we can start to also look at your tables, and you can import your tables in, and it'll scan and find them. And then we can say, okay, well, I'm going to make sure I'm going to go in here and make sure that I've identified the business terms in my physical tables. Now that can be a pretty large task for us. We do have some ability to help during the source scanning process where we can look for regular expressions and automatically assign those to a business term. So in the case of SSN, we could say, okay, every time there's an SSN in the column, that's going to be a social security number. Okay, it might miss some, like this example here, person federal ID, which is an SSN, but we don't know that. But so it might miss some. That's not 100% match. But what I can do then is go in and do this also manually. So I can go in and here, like for example, maybe this is a create user ID, and just create a new business term on the fly if I have the proper security. So maybe user ID. And then with this case, the audit stamp, I could also automatically scan that and have those automatically assigned, or I can go in and manually do the same thing. Okay, so I can do things like that. All right, and then I have a little percentage up here showing me how far I've gotten on a particular table. All right, so once that step is done, then you can do some stuff around impact analysis around those terms. For example, I may want to go in here, look for my business terms, and say I want to see everywhere where there's personal identification. Okay, so I can click on show forward detail. And with this test system, there's not a lot here. But in a real life system, this could be hundreds, thousands of columns around there. And I can look at it. Okay, here's the particular columns that we determined are personal identification or someone's name. Okay. Also look at it from a table perspective. Again, with this test system, we only have one table, but more typically you'd have a number of tables that would have that information. And once I'm in this position, I can start to drill in and see, okay, what's the impact of changing maybe the size of someone's first name, or masking all the names in the database. I can start to go in and see and look at, okay, well, here's the table that's associated with those columns. Here's a business term that's also associated with those columns. And also then start to trace back and look at what the other impacts might be. Okay, so I can look at, for example, okay, what functions are actually inserting rows into the person table? So maybe that's impacted. And what's the lineage from that? I can just kind of backwards trace and see, and create a diagram very quickly of the impact that I'm going to have around changing a person's first name. Where is that coming from? What functions are part of that? Where is it writing to on the table? And it's kind of just a quick demonstration of what the possibilities are. There's quite a bit more here around the data lineage side and how you can do impacts. I want to kind of stop there because I don't want to take up too much more time. I just want to also point out that once you have this information on a view, you can choose to also export that view, right? So I can export the diagram to Draw.io, for example. Save that real quick. And then go to Draw.io diagram and import it in. So open my device. Open that up. And get that diagram in a place where I can add additional notes, make changes to, and maybe share with analysts or management. Okay, well, thank you very much for that. And again, if you have any questions on this, please hold them to the end. We're going to go right into the next section, though, I think, Mark, and
introduce Roger to the audience. I know we have, looking at the attendees, we have about 20% of the people today have never been on one of our webinars before. Anyway, this is kind of our format, and I wanted to introduce Roger Griffith, who actually is who I'd heard of, and I've only been in this business for 7 years, but Roger's reputation preceded me, and he was instrumental back in the early days of the conference, and when user groups, when we realized that we had to form a user community and rely on sharing expertise with our with expert users. And Roger really picked up on that and ran the Northwest user group. So anyway, without further ado, I want to introduce Roger, and Roger will talk about the upcoming conference and important ways that we can get a broad participation from customers as well as our business partners worldwide. Thanks, Roger. Welcome aboard.
Thank you, Mark. You can go to the next slide.
Roger is a custom car restorer, as you can see in his background up there. There's a Mustang guy and a Chevy pickup guy, and meticulous.
Yes. Okay. So let me tell you a little bit about myself, specifically with my involvement in Plex and 2E. I started my career with SYNON 2E back in about 1988. Used 2E through about 1996. At that point, we migrated over and started doing all of our development with Obsidian, now Plex, and I've been exclusively using Plex for all of my development from 96 through today. Back in 2004, I started out as the president of the Northwest Plex Developer User Group. We were based in Meridian, Idaho, and we were holding quarterly meetings, pulling people from around the Northwest United States. Those were a phenomenal success. It continued to grow, and we held the first worldwide Plex 2E user conference in Boise, Idaho, and there's been a total of 10 of them to date, and we're coming up on number 11. So that blueprint for low cost and high value was started at that conference, and we've been using it ever since. I am the world leading Plex 2E evangelist. No one has ever voted on that. I just say it, and it's true. I have a very high degree of passion for these tools. I believe in them, and I get up on my soapbox and beat the drum every opportunity I get. My current role is I'm the director of software development for Eagleson Systems products. They are based in Tulsa, Oklahoma. However, I work remotely from home in Boise, Idaho. Next slide. Okay. What we would like is for this user community to be focused on the product users and the business partners. We are definitely stronger together. When we can work as a community, we can leverage a lot of skills and get more value out of these tools that we're using. Knowledge is power. The more we know about these tools, the more we can get value out of these tools. So we would like to collaborate, share experience, share skills so that everyone can learn from each other to get the maximum amount of value possible from these tools. No single developer knows everything that these tools offer. And collectively, we still don't know everything these tools offer, but we get much closer. These tools are so involved. There's so much capability within these tools. I've never really met anyone who is a master of the tools that knows absolutely everything about the tools. We continue to learn new things that we didn't know before by talking to other users of the tool. So some reasons why you will want to join this worldwide user group, it's really a user community, is that we have all of us on this webcast, we have invested our career into developing skills and working with Plex and 2E. Okay, this is not something that we just kind of dabble with on the side. This is our career, and we work for companies that are very much reliant upon these tools. So what we would like to do with this user community is share what we know so that we can get more out of the tools by working together. Okay, folks, so get ready to get excited because here's where we're going with this user community. We are an elite group of application engineers who produce 6 times more software than traditional enterprise coders. People who are down there writing that low-level code, we're 6 times more productive than they are. And by working together, we will leverage that experience of hundreds of the world's best engineers in the industry. There is so much collective knowledge out there in the community, and we're going to tap into that knowledge. Okay, you have experience and expertise, and I'm looking for you to join this team and be part of this movement of this user community. As part of that, you're going to meet new people and you're going to make new friends, and you're going to learn something new, and hopefully you're going to teach us something new. Okay, you will have a choice. You will have a voice and you will rejoice. I just made that up. I kind of botched it. But anyway, you will have a voice and you will rejoice. Okay, some of the topics that are going to be covered by this community is it's going to be driven by you. There's no topic that's off the table. If you're using Plex and or 2E and or the IBM I AS400, whatever you want to call it, for development, we're going to discuss it. Okay, we're going to be focused on things like how we use the product, tips and techniques, the IBM I AS400, how to integrate these applications with other software, DevOps, security, RPA, BPM, web and mobile front ends to these applications, and modernization, and there's probably even more, but that's all we had room for on this slide. Okay, so now I know you're asking yourself, Roger, how can I get involved in this exciting new user community? And just as a high level, the way it's going to work is we're going to do quarterly webcasts. Each webcast is going to consist of a whole variety of different things, but what we're going to try and do is always include 10-minute lightning talks where we'll get people from the community to offer to just talk a little bit about things like, show us your world-class applications that you have built with Plex or 2E. We would like to see what you're doing and, get some success stories. So the quarterly webcast, I mean, there's really unlimited possibilities in as far as what is included in those webcasts. We're also going to do worldwide conferences. These conferences are going to be held roughly every 18 months. This next one coming up in October of 2020 is going to be virtual, but based on what happens with the COVID virus going forward, we might move that to an actual location like they have been done historically. So we're just going to play that one by ear. And also, we would like to hold a webcast on July 8th, and that webcast will be specifically focused on this user community and putting some structure to it and getting some ideas from you guys as far as how you want this thing to look and feel. Okay, we're going to leverage some available platforms, specifically Facebook, Twitter, the website plex2e.com, a newsletter. We're going to, and use those platforms as a vehicle for us to communicate as a group and work together to share ideas. Okay, we would like to do a lot of networking. So, do not be shy. You guys, you're an elite group, and we want to get to know you better, and we want you to know us better. Okay, the reality of the situation, folks, is that we're all working on an island. But your membership in this Plex 2E Worldwide User Group puts you in the center of the universe. As we work with these tools, we're all scattered around the world, doing our day-to-day stuff. And it's very easy to just kind of feel like we're the only ones using the tools and we're just out here by ourselves and we don't have anyone to go to when we need help. But with this user community, that is absolutely not the case. There's resources all over the world that we can draw from and use each other to collaborate to, just help us learn more and be able to use these tools to their fullest effectiveness. Okay, and that's really about all I got to say, folks. I would ask for you to please submit your questions and we will answer them at the end of this webcast. And I'm going to turn it back over to you, Mark.
Terrific. Thanks, Roger. We have a poll question coming up, and then thank you. I think a couple of questions have been submitted. So our poll question is a little bit on business travel. So mainly, we just want to get your opinion of what is your current willingness to do business travel? Would you travel to visit a customer or a key business partner? Would you travel to go to a conference? Has the company policy perhaps changed to say there's no travel right now? Or are you waiting for a vaccine before you commit to business travel plans? So the winner, I can't travel by policy, and I'm waiting for a vaccine. So there's about 2/3, and that ties in with the sentiment that people want to have a remote online conference this year too. Ties in closely like that. So I won't ask about your personal travel, but anyway, we do have a couple of questions. Somebody asked me a question about when the next release for Plex currently is. Plex is currently 7.2.1, and I've been working with the product leadership with Broadcom overseas, as well as here in San Jose and in the eastern coast of the U.S. And they're being pretty tight-lipped about what's going on a roadmap right now. So I think that based on their past performance, we can presume that there's probably not going to be a major release. They still are committed to being compliant, for example, with the IBM Power, the OS system and so forth. The products are going to run on that. Obviously, Plex can run on client server and Linux and so forth as well too. But as far as 2E goes, we've heard that they will be compliant on that, and also on Microsoft and SQL developments and so forth. So they're going to maintain compatibility, but don't be expecting any radical things. We're working with a lot of customers right now on, as you can tell, on data and multi-factor authentication and robotic process automation, all these things that were just, they weren't contemplated back 25 years ago, 30 years ago when these products were being invented. But they're relevant now, and they help to extend the productivity of these systems into the future. So I hope that's helpful. I still reach out to them. If anyone has any, if you have any compatibility problems or any service problems, anyway, that's it. John, what else have we got on the board?
Here's one, I guess, for Patrick. How do I contact the people from Abacus? I guess we have that in the handout. Has Patrick's information's in there, and we'll also be, I guess I'll answer for Patrick. We're going to send out his information, and as part of the fall to everyone who attended the webinar. And also, you can also download the presentations now from the handout section, and it's right in there. Anything else you want to say, Patrick? I guess maybe he's on mute.
Yeah, so email, phone, mail, whatever you want to do, I'm available. Yeah, right. Exactly. Smoke signals. Yeah, and so my stuff will be on that handout, and I'm sure you guys can follow it up with as well.
Yes, you will. Everyone will get a copy of today's presentations, like John said, as well as the slides in the handout area.
Okay,
time for one more
question for Roger. How do we submit an abstract for the conference? Roger Griffith.
Okay. We are going to be sending out more information on how to get involved with the user group in the conference and all this type of thing. So it's really just kind of a moving target right now. But we will be sending out contact information on how you can directly communicate with me as well as the conference. I will say that if you go to plex2e.com is where all the conference information is at. And I would suggest that you use that as a resource for more information about the conference, plex2e.com.
Great. Also, if you go to that website, you'll see abstracts and technical information there from the preceding 5 or 6 conferences. So that can be really helpful if you're looking for ideas, or maybe you want to update some information that's in there.
Here's my question for, I guess, Mark Schroeder. How long does it take to do a scan of all your data? Mark, can take a stab at that?
Yeah, that's a really hard question to answer, because everybody has a little different amount of data and a number of tables and so forth. So I can just tell you that the scan that I did took about maybe a minute, but that was, I'm running it over a small database. So it's really hard to give you an answer on that.
Okay.
The best thing is for us to, give you a POC and sort of scan a certain number of tables that you have, and then we could sort of get an idea from that.
Perfect.
That makes sense. A question for me: can you import data dictionary information into your product? I'll just answer quickly. Yes, that is a capability that's coming up. To be able to port data dictionary information in via CSV files, cut down on any manual data entry you need to do. And I think we have one more question, right? One for Patrick here. Can you connect an AWS web server to an IBM backend, I guess hosted backend, and get good performance? That's probably a hard answer.
That's great. It's a good question, actually. It brings up part of our solution is not just the AS400, but we'll bring in all the accompanying workloads. So there isn't an easy way to take Windows workloads out of AWS, connect it to an AS400, and not have latency. So what we'll do is we'll take whatever your half a dozen, or we'll take all 100 or 200 of your VMs if you needed to move your Windows workloads with. And we have a whole offering around the Windows base as well. The Windows offerings are much more competitive and a race to the bottom, arguably, with AWS and Google and Azure and everything. But the answer is those workloads come with the AS400, and you can and we can take those on with them. And those need to be intertwined and brought together as a package, because they are all intertwined and latency concerns. So you want to bring them all together. Question.
Great. I think we're out of time, John.
I think so.
I wanted to thank everybody, all of our our technical speakers and panelists, as well as Roger, our new user president. And we'll be in touch with you after this and be following up about the conference and probably doing something separately with Roger for those people who want to talk more about abstracts and things going on at the conference in about a month or so. We'll send you out on a separate email if you're interested. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day. Stay safe.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.